What's going on, everybody? It's Ricky with Video Homicide, and I wanted to bring to you a video that kind of embodies everything that I either watched, read, or kind of drew or painted over the course of January, because I lacked on videos in the month of January just because, I was doing a lot of drawing, doing a lot of painting. I was watching stuff, trying to watch stuff that I'd never seen before, or I was listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. But anyways, we're going to kind of cover a lot of stuff in this video. So we're going to start it off with Lord of the Rings, which is a franchise, a book, a story, a phenomenon, if you will, that has been a part of my life since the movie first came out. So I can even remember being in public school, a buddy of mine, Christian, like for instance, I love Lord of the Rings. This guy fucking loves Lord of the Rings. And he did an assignment one time in public school where he had another buddy walk around the classroom with his Game Boy Advance playing the, the pause menu sound, because it was the movie score in the background as he did his speech or whatever it was. And I'll just never forget that. But we watched Lord of the Rings so many fucking times. I saw the first one in the theater, second one in the theater. Third one, I don't think I saw in the theater, honestly, because I'm trying to remember who I went with. I know I went to the Fellowship with my uncle. I went to Towers with my dad. And the third one, I don't think I saw it in theater. And not only that, but Return of the King was the one that I watched the least when I was a kid. And then I remember it came out on tape, and it was a 2-taper, like Scarface and Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that. Well, the Anchor-based special edition of Dawn of the Dead, that is. But anyways, I remember watching these movies, the regular cuts of these films, and then when the DVDs came out, hearing about these extended cuts of the film, where it was like a 4-hour movie, and I thought, damn, that's got to be crazy, how much, what is going to be added that shouldn't have already been in theatrical cut is what I thought back then. So I kind of just disregarded them for, maybe it's a bunch of crap, because I remember when I was a kid getting a couple of DVDs, renting or buying. Me and my dad would watch them, and we'd put on the director's cut or whatever, or the extended cut, and sometimes it would be maybe 2 or 3 minutes added of just dialogue. So that's what I wrote off Lord of the Rings as. I was wrong, okay? These movies are jam-packed with so much stuff that, kind of fleshes out the story way, way better. So this is kind of off topic. Well, it's on topic, but off topic. There's a game called Warhammer, which is a tabletop game. I've never personally played it, but I was obsessed with it in way of painting the little dudes, the little models. So I remember when Two Towers was out, there was all these Warhammer-esque games where you could go, you buy the little package of the models, and then you buy all these paints and you paint them and stuff like that. So I remember doing that a lot. And then I remember, I don't have any of them anymore, which I wish I did, because I painted them years ago. That's a shame. But anyways, there came a point in my life where I just kind of forgot about Lord of the Rings, and that's pretty much how it's been for quite a few years. And then the Hobbit films came out, never seen any of them, which maybe I got to check them out eventually, but I know that there's going to be that huge amount of CGI that I just cannot fucking stand in movies, if everything about, the monsters and whatever it is looks CG to me, I tune out. I just can't stay involved. But with the original Lord of the Rings films, there's so much practical mixed in there with the CGI that it's a good mix, and the models and all that kind of stuff I'm a big fan of, man. So I remember when I was a kid, I had this book, I forget what the name of it was, but it was all about Fellowship of the Rings, and it went into Weta Workshop, which was the production house or the special effects house that did the practical. And I thought it was so fucking cool to see the orc masks and the Uruk-hai masks and all this stuff. Even I forgot about the word Uruk-hai, and I remember when I was watching the film, the part 2 or whatever it was, when they're digging them up, and Gimli says these are not orcs, these are Uruk-hai. And I remember thinking whoa, what the fuck is that? To me it sounds like something Japanese. And even when I was a kid back then, I was that is just a scary motherfucker. you know, and they come out of like the ground, like are these motherfuckers are like in the ground all over, like I remember thinking that stuff. So fast forward, I'm watching Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm blown away by the amount of stuff that is added in the film that I just forgot about, or just, you know, I never seen before. So like some of my favorite scenes in the film, there's a tarp going crazy out there. I hope it's not picking up on the mic too intensely, but you know, the scene where Gandalf goes to like this place, and it's like an old library, and he's sitting there and he's drinking his tea or whatever and eating a fucking piece of bread, and he comes across like the letter that says, you know, like the thing's precious to him and all that. Like, I love that. For me, if you're making a movie that's like a period piece and you don't have a fucking crazy dusty library, you've done a disservice, you know, because I think that they're so cool. I wish there was like 50 minutes of him in that library just looking around at like the documents. I love when they make, you know, documents and stuff for films. Like Evil Dead is like one of the biggest examples of that for me. Like the Book of the Dead just like looks so fucking cool. Not only the binding, but like the interior of the book is just fantastic artwork. So you know, assuming you've seen these videos is how or you've seen these movies is how I'm talking about it. But if you remember the scene where the elvish girl Erwin is taking Frodo to Rivendell and she's being pursued by the ring wraiths, on the tape I had when I was a kid, that was like a fucking maybe 35, 45 second ordeal. But in the extended cut, it seemed like it went off for like minutes of her being chased by these ring wraiths, and like they look like death. So you already know that I'm like, man, these are fucking cool looking characters. So I was totally involved in that scene. I loved it. I love how the you know, the water kind of like, she uses some sort of elvish magic to make the water come, and like you can see like horses in the water, and I just fucking thought it was so cool. Really enjoyed the film, and again, the special effects, like, they're top notch in this movie. All the characters, like, it's so fucking hard to make a movie where every character is likable, you know, of your main cast, of which there's 9, plus all the other like sort of people that come in and out throughout the series. Really enjoyed the Fellowship of the Rings extended cut. I can't remember too many other things that were added, but I definitely remember, you know, that scene in the mines of Moria, where there's that fucking Balrog thing, which is like a big flaming monster essentially with a whip. It was like a big demon, and I thought that was really badass. One thing about the Mines of Moria scene to me was, I feel like it was extended in the way of when they're running like to that little bridge just before the Balrog shows up, and there's like hundreds of thousands of these fucking goblins or orcs like rushing them. It looked so freaky and so scary, and like the thought of, like, you know, people can joke all they want about Lord of the Rings being, oh, it's all about walking and running and this and that. Like, it's a fucking good movie, you know, and I will stand by that. So like that movie Clerks 2, when is it Dante or Randall is like making fun of the Lord of the Rings, and like, it's funny and it's relatable. I understand. I got fucking many a laugh out of that, but I still love Lord of the Rings, and I think Lord of the Rings have made more good movies have come from that franchise than has come from Star Wars, and I think anyone can agree with that. The first 3 Star Wars movies from the 1970s through the 80s, I think, are fantastic. Everything past that can eat cock, and it's just a bunch of crying people like trying to convince themselves that Star Wars is still good. Like, the last one I seen was so fucking bad that I had to like lay down after, because it just fucking gave me a migraine basically. But moving on from Fellowship of the Rings, wrapping up from the Mines of Moria thing, like I think that's probably one of the best moments of the film, very tension heavy. And then of course the huge battle at the end, not that big of a battle, but it's basically like Aragorn, Boromir, and Gimli and Legolas versus like all these Uruk-hai, and then Merry and Pippin get taken. I thought all that was really well done. And moving into Two Towers, which is my favorite of the series and the one that I watched the most of, there was stuff in there. What the fuck? My camera's okay. Like, there was stuff in there that since I hadn't watched it for so long, that I was like being, oh, I remember that. But then it was being expanded upon. And I was like, this is so dope, man. Like, so I have to point out my favorite part of Two Towers is obviously the Battle of Helms Deep near the end, like the third act of the film, which is like a grand, like 10,000 strong army versus like a couple of hundred, like men and elves, you know, and then Gimli, the dwarf. Thought it was fantastic. Love the way that it plays out. I love the ladders. You know, because I remember when I was a kid, I specifically remember watching that movie in theater and seeing all of them come towards Helm's Deep and like the fight ensues, and I'm thinking, well, how are they gonna get over, or like what are they gonna do? You know, because I didn't put two and two together, that scene where Saruman is like got that gunpowder kind of stuff, and he pushes Chucky, who's right there behind me, pushes Chucky away because he has the candle. I didn't think, oh, it's gunpowder. You know, I'm like 10, 11 years old. But that scene where the ladders start going up against the wall, that made it real for me, man. Like, that scared the shit out of me. You know, because these movies, when you're a kid, like, they are kind of scary in essence, because they're about people that are trying to kill these motherfuckers and get this ring so they can kill everyone else on the planet. Or Middle Earth, wherever the fuck that is. But one of the extended scenes in the movie that really blew me away was the scene where Boromir's backstory is told, where like he had just won this great battle, and you know, and he was like, beer for everyone, bring the ale, and like he was being celebrated. His father favored him over his other brother, and like just all of that, I felt like was so needed. Was so needed, because I remember watching the movie when I was a kid, Fellowship, and thinking that Boromir's a fucking cocksucker. Like, he's got no redeeming qualities. And then I see the extended cut 20 years later, and I'm like, what the fuck? I love this guy. I think he's one of the most one of my favorite characters of the film now, of the series. That is, just because he wasn't given his fair shake in the original trilogy without the extended cuts. That's the way I feel about it. I just think I needed all of that. So, Two Towers, man, like, I don't, everything from the Riders of Rohan to the Fangorn Forest and all that, and the fucking Uruk-hai, like, I really like the film. I think it's still my favorite, you know, even though you could say that the battles are better in Fellowship or even in King, which I disagree with, because, like, you don't really get that. I mean, you get a good battle in King, but it's not the same, because Helm's Deep is almost like that 300 vibe, where it's like they're outnumbered in every way, they're outgunned, you know, like they're gonna run out of arrows. When I was a kid, I remember thinking, why don't they just keep shooting the arrows until they're all dead, you know? But come on, you can't do that. Like, it's, I don't know. I still think Towers is one of the best. So we're gonna move ahead to Return of the King. Now, this is where I'm gonna be disgusting, okay? Because, like I said, that was the film that I'd watched the least out of the three movies. So watching the extended cut, it was hard for me to differentiate between the extended cuts and the original theatrical cut of the film. But I still enjoyed it. Loved it. I thought it was great. Liked it more than I did when I was a kid. I remember having the video game back in the day where you go and visit those ghosts, like those green ghosts, which I thought was really cool. And you know, I liked all the other kind of armies that are on Mordor's side. There's like almost like Arabian type armies, and like even I think it's in Two Towers. It is in Two Towers when they approach the gates, the black gates of Mordor, and Frodo and Sam and fucking Gollum, like they watch all these warriors going in, and like they almost look like they look Middle Eastern in their eyes, but like their costumes are very Japanese inspired, at least the way I looked at them. But you know, there's not much more I can really talk about Return of the King other than the you know, sort of the obvious. Like I like the battles, special effects are great. The ending, like, to me personally, because there is like all the multiple endings in this film, I think that they should have ended it with you know, and if you watch the Bobby Lee podcast, there was he did the interview with David Cho, and someone else came on to it. The guy that was I forget the guy's name from Walking Dead that was Bone and Maggie, the Asian dude. Steven Yuen. He like there's that interview, and like they make fun of how everyone's bowing to Aragon or Strider. I still like calling him Strider better than Aragon. And he gets over to where the hobbits are, and they all bow, and he's like, "Oh, my friends, like you guys bow to no one." And David Cho and Bobby Lee get good fun out of that. But like still, like I get what they're saying. Like it's such a powerful moment, and that's where it should have ended. I feel like that is the perfect spot, because like these 4 hobbits from like across the continent came over and saved Middle Earth. And like when they get back to the Shire, and like they're basically like no one gives a fuck, like no one's paying attention to them, anything like that. So I felt like that was kind of drab, but I really do think that the ending would have worked best with like, my friends, you bow to no one, and then everyone just bows to them, and then you pull back, and then it cuts and it's over. I think that would have been a better ending, but Peter Jackson thought otherwise. So that's pretty much it for my thoughts on the original Lord of the Rings franchise. Although there is the Ralph Bakshi animated film, which I remember watching with my friend Christian, the guy with the Game Boy from the beginning of the story. We watched it, and I remember thinking like, wow, like this is so different and so weird. And it was like before I really got into like Fritz the Cat, and like, or I had heard about Fritz the Cat, but I didn't know it was Ralph Bakshi. I'd seen Cool World, and again, like, you don't put things together when you're a kid that much. Like I knew certain things, but not everything when it came to animation. Like I didn't know everything about 70s animation when I was 10 years old. Like forgive me, So that's pretty much it for about Lord of the Rings. Moving on to a film by Tarantino, the 8th film by Tarantino, The Hateful Eight. One of my favorite films of that year. I remember I had skipped school to go see this film, and loved it. Okay, I've seen this movie maybe about 4 or 5 times since I saw it in theater, and every time, like, I'm still intrigued by every moment. Like, even though I know the twist, I'm still anticipating, slowly anticipating everything happening. It's very a cool, slow-moving movie that has a good ending, in my opinion. So I love everything from the opening scene where John the Hangman Ruth picks up Samuel Jackson's character, and they pick up Walton Goggins' character, and everything that happens in between those moments. Like, the girl, I forget her name, but she was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, when she spits on the Abraham Lincoln letter. And even how it like Samuel Jackson like says like, I think we shared a steak dinner once upon a time. Like that to me is just like a cool. It goes to show you like Tarantino like knows how to write a film. Like, you can say what you want about the guy. He's an asshole. He's a prick. He's this. He's that. He's a good writer. He's a good filmmaker, and he tells a hell of a story. So, I think when you're gonna talk about Hateful Eight, assuming you've seen the film, everything I've been talking about in this video, I assume you've seen it. Otherwise, you're just spoiling the fuck out of it to yourself. But I feel like I knew something was amiss as soon as they got to that haberdashery, like upon first viewing. And I remember thinking like, fuck, like something's weird here. Something's going on. Like all these guys, like they just seem so like greasy and dirty. And I loved how there was like the turnaround at the end of the film where they expose all the real names. Like Joe Gage, played by Michael Madsen, was really like, like Jimmy Smith or whatever. And then the English guy was really English Pete. And I loved how his accent changed from like, like, oh, we're going to have a spot of tea, to like, hey, we're going to have a spot of tea. Like that gangster English East London kind of thing, man. I just fell in love with all those characters. And since they're Tarantino regulars, you know that Tarantino knows how to work with these guys, and they know how to like deliver his lines and stuff. And I just thought it was really fantastic. I thought Bruce Dern was great in the film. Everyone in the haberdashery, like from Bob, like the big Mexican dude that's at one point he's like just plucking a chicken, and all of Samuel Jackson's sort of facial expressions when he's putting stuff together, like how, the thing with the stew, like, my mom made stew, and every time she made it, didn't matter what the meat was, it always tasted the same, and that's how he knew that they were lying about the stew. And, but how there was a sign that said, like, no dogs, no Mexicans. She took the sign down because they started letting in dogs, so why would she leave her bar in trust or in control of a Mexican? So all of that stuff to me, I just thought so fascinating. And I loved the Bruce Dern interaction with Samuel Jackson revolving around the sun, where, you know, like, the fuck is that? They're doing construction in one of the apartments underneath. Hopefully it's not picking up. Oh, I feel like it's picking up pretty good. But anyways, I love the Hateful Eight, okay? And that's what I was saying. The Bruce Dern, Samuel Jackson thing about the son and how he made him like blow his cock and all that kind of stuff. And very disturbing imagery, you know, for a father to think about their son. That's pretty much all I have to say about Hateful Eight, other than I just, you know, I love the film. I wish that I wish there was an extended cut of that movie that I could watch. Maybe there is. I don't own it on DVD or Blu-ray, so I'll have to check that out for sure. And one thing about Tarantino I never understood was, why doesn't he make commentaries on his films? I just feel like, you know, like, I just feel like he's the kind of guy that would do that, but he doesn't. Strange to me, man. I know he did a commentary, I believe, on From Dusk Till Dawn, I want to say. I could be wrong on that, but anyways, I've also been watching a lot of Tarantino, like, interviews. Are you fucking kidding me? This fucking noise is going to go on forever? But I've been watching a lot of Tarantino interviews and just little clips of him on YouTube. Like, there's no shortage of stuff like that on YouTube, and it's great because I love to hear the guy talk about stuff because he is very interesting. He's a very expressive fella, I would say. So, like, there's good Charlie Rose interviews from, like, the Pulp Fiction era, which are really good. And I think there's a Kill Bill era one. When like, I'll be the first to say, like, when I'm ranking my top 3 Tarantino films, Kill Bill, Django, Hateful Eight. That's it. Pulp Fiction's great. Pulp Fiction would be there if it wasn't for Hateful Eight, you know, and it was there before Hateful Eight. And then even Reservoir Dogs, sometimes I feel like I like that more than Pulp Fiction, and it's hard to pick. You know, it's really hard to pick with his films. I would definitely say that Inglourious Basterds is one of the ones that I slept on for a long time, and I'm trying to think. Well, Jackie Brown is really good as well, but it's just not up to par with the other ones, in my opinion. Although I know a lot of people say that it is one of his best films. It's very realistic, or not very realistic, but just very, you know, it's an older cast, you know, and it goes together really well. But moving along from the Hateful Eight talk and Tarantino talk, I also watched JFK by Oliver Stone. Have you seen that? Like, I've been on this Oliver Stone kick. Like, I was watching some Joe Rogan clips and videos and podcasts, whatever you want to say, and the Oliver Stone clips were popping up, so I started watching them, and there's the one where he was talking about JFK. I thought, fuck, like, he made that movie JFK, and I've never watched it, because I knew it was like a 2-taper, and I knew it was like very like, you know, I just never thought about watching it, and then I'm so fucking happy I did. It's so good. Kevin Costner is the star. He plays the investigator that's trying to you know, dispute what the Warren Commission put out. Like, if you don't know anything about the JFK assassination, then you might be lost here. But I would definitely say just watch JFK by Oliver Stone. I believe about 1991, and you'll have a very good history lesson. Some would say false. Some would say very accurate. You know, I'm on the fence of, like, I've seen the tape, like the Zapruder film, where, you know, like the film where it shows John F. Kennedy getting shot. Like, he goes like this, and then he's sitting there, and then all of a sudden his fucking head goes back and to the left, back and to the left. Like, it to me, it would seem that headshot came from a different direction than the book depository. So I'll leave it at that. But I will say I was fascinated by the film. It was very Oliver Stone-ish. And what I mean by that is it had a lot of those sort of cutaway shots almost. Parts are black and white. It was kind of like imagine if Natural Born Killers like wasn't all acidy with all their stuff, and it was just like they were always the same. Like, it wasn't like a variety show kind of thing. Maybe that might not make sense, but I just felt a lot of Natural Born Killer vibes. Well, of course it's the same director, but very good movie. I thought Gary Oldman was fantastic, and I wish there was more of Gary Oldman in the film. I preferred Gary Oldman over Kevin Costner. I'm not the biggest Kevin Costner fan. You know, I do like Dances with Wolves. I do like that film that he made with Woody Harrelson a few years ago. I think it was called The Highwaymen, which was about the Bonnie and Clyde situation. I also like Kevin Costner in... I'm trying to remember another Kevin Costner film that I really like, but I'm blanking on names right now. He's okay. I think he's kind of overrated in some degree, but I do enjoy some of his flicks. Speaking of JFK, though, I would be amiss if I didn't talk about this new Oliver Stone JFK documentary. I watched it last night. I thought it was pretty fucking good. It had interviews with a lot of people that were, in the know, so to speak. And even Robert Kennedy Jr. had an interview in there. It was pretty good. I liked the opening better than the ending, because the opening was like everything sort of leading up to the situation. But I don't remember the name of the documentary. Just go on Google, type in JFK documentary directed by Oliver Stone. You should be able to find it, no problem. I also read a book in the month of January, and the book was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, adapted by Troy Little, so it was a graphic novel. And very interesting take on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I've never read the novel. I'll take that back. I remember renting out the novel when I was a kid, but I'd seen the fucking movie so many times by then that it just kind of goes out the window for me. So we'll just say that I may or may not have read the book back in the day, but reading this was great, because I had watched Fear and Loathing in the last maybe month, and it's a movie I like to go back to from time to time. It's just really entertaining, but reading that book was so fun. I had Johnny Depp's voice in my head the whole time. I had his attorney played by what the fuck is his name? And I'm totally Benicio del Toro. I had his voice in my head, and it was just like a really fun ride, And Troy Little's art is amazing. I think it's really great, very cartoonish. It kind of reminded me of the one Scarface comic put out by IDW probably about 10 years ago at this point. Really good stuff. So yeah, that was pretty much, and again, I watched a lot of other movies, a lot of other documentaries and stuff, but those were the big cojones. I think Lord of the Rings was a big daunting task. It took me a couple of days to get through all those movies, and I'm glad I watched them, because like I said, those extended cuts, man, god damn, they're good. And the makeup effects, fuck, they're good. But yeah, I want to put out some more art type videos and stuff, but to me, it's kind of a pain in the ass to film everything and still be involved in the painting, because I'm constantly worrying about, is the camera filming? Did the battery die? That type of stuff. So I appreciate everybody for watching. Definitely check out the video I put out a couple of weeks ago talking about my comic book and my zine. And if you're interested, you can pick those zines up. I've shipped out all the orders that have been made have been shipped up until this point. So if you ordered the books and you got a couple of little, you got an extra zine that I didn't even talk about, and you will be, that stuff is on the way. So hopefully, if you want to get that, or if you want to get an extra copy to give to your buddy or whatever the fuck it is, go ahead, PayPal, $20. The link is in the description of that one video, and you can get that. So with that being said, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and we are almost at 800 subscribers, which is awesome. So thank you for that, and thank you for just being a part of the journey of these videos. It's fun. I haven't made one in a while, but I do sort of like this format of talking about multiple things in one video, because I like having it be a conversation, even though this is a fucking a conversation with one street or one side, but you know what I mean. So thank you again, and adios. Oh, and leave a 666 in the comments if you've made it this far, so don't forget about that.